Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to give it a few seconds here to allow all of our participants to get in from the waiting room, and then we will get started. So if you would just bear with us for a few moments, want to make sure we get our full crowd in and they don't miss any part of the presentation. We'll get started in just a moment. Those of you just coming on, we're going to give it just a minute to let everyone from our virtual waiting room get in before we get started. So we appreciate your patience and we will get going in just a moment. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully most everyone has joined us from the waiting room, but my name is Janelle Tassard. I'm with the Greater Phoenix Chamber and want to thank you all so much for being here with us today for the Professional Women's Alliance. I know there is so much going on right now within your businesses, in our community, in our country, and we are so honored that you would take some time out of your day to be a part of this network, albeit a virtual format today, to hear this conversation. I want you to know we miss you. We can't wait until we can all be back together again at the country club, enjoying our salads and having in-person dialogue, but we will hopefully get the opportunity to do that in the near future. Again, thank you for joining us for the Professional Women's Alliance featuring Kathleen Duffy Ybarra, and she is going to share some advice today on how to build your personal brand. It's going to be a great presentation. For those of you who are not familiar, the Professional Women's Alliance is a monthly program of the Chamber where we get to feature a dynamic female leader from our community to talk about their experience, their work history, and bring you their insights into leadership and career growth and community involvement in a wide array of topics. I want to start by thanking the sponsors of our PWA program. If you would please give a virtual round of applause to APS, BOK Financial, Slalom, and the University of Phoenix. We are so appreciative of their continued support of PWA and women's programming throughout the Valley. I also want to extend a big thank you to two groups that really helped promote today's program, Women United with the Valley of the Sun United Way and the WIN Network at SRP. They were tremendous partners, and I'm excited to share we have a record-breaking PWA attendance this afternoon. So hopefully you can all connect virtually through the chat feature, and we're excited to have you here. Throughout Kathleen's presentation, if you would like to submit questions for her that she'll answer at the end of her prepared presentation, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or at the side of the screen, depending on what platform you're on. So send those in at any point throughout the presentation, and we will get through as many of those as we can at the end. It is my privilege today to welcome our presenter. She is one of my favorite people that I've had the opportunity to meet through the Chamber. Kathleen Duffy Ybarra is the President and CEO of Duffy Group, Inc., a highly respected global recruitment firm that she founded in Phoenix 29 years ago. A true entrepreneur, her goal was to create an organization with a commitment to work-life balance. Kathleen serves as a member of multiple councils and has been recognized for her work in community service. She was the recipient of the Chamber's 2018 Athena Businesswoman of the Year Award and was recently selected as a 2019 Most Admired Leaders honoree by the Phoenix Business Journal. She currently serves as the co-chair on 2020 Women on Boards, a national initiative to increase the percentage of qualified women serving on public boards. Kathleen earned her bachelor's degree in communications from Arizona State University. If you know her, you know she is an avid Sun Devil. She serves on multiple ASU committees and is currently a member of the President's Club and the Chapter Advisory Board for the Kappa Delta sorority. So please join me in welcoming Kathleen Duffy Ybarra. Kathleen, take it away.
Great, thanks Janelle. Thanks everyone. All right, so Okay, so here we go. So thanks, Janelle, and of course to all of my friends at the Chamber. You know, we were getting all of this together, and I want to welcome you to my home. I have dogs in quarantine. The rest of my family is in quarantine, and of course, you know, like a half an hour ago, the landscapers showed up, so I've kicked them out too. So hopefully no Amazon Prime deliveries come through all of this, but you guys are living this too, so. But anyway, to everyone that's on the webinar, I'm so glad that you're here. It's really been a rough road of late. You know, gosh, between the coronavirus and all the recent turn of events. But we know that we need to keep moving forward. And so I'm excited to go ahead and do that with you and get started on our presentation. You know, in April, Doris Savran spoke on the power of stories, and that people pay attention to a compelling story, and they pay attention to your story. And it was really an excellent session, and what I want to do is build upon it. And building your personal brand can be a strategic advantage as you vie for either advancement or leadership positions in our new world. It's really all about defining your passion, your expertise, and your online presence. So, hello, I'm Kathleen Duffy. I'm the president and CEO of Duffy Group, which is a global recruitment firm headquartered in Phoenix. I educate employers about an alternative approach to traditional search called recruitment research. I am super passionate about connecting the best candidates with companies that need them. And I love using my expertise as a force of good in business and the community. So let me give you a little bit more detail and tell you my story. So my story starts with my mom and dad, Gail and Jim Duffy. I'm their firstborn. And I do like to remind my mother that I am her favorite. I have a brother, Pat, and a sister, Sharon. My dad was an engineer who worked for a defense contractor, so we moved quite a bit while I was growing up. We actually spent 3 years in the Marshall Islands. We lived on a small island called Kwajalein. After that stint, we returned back to the United States, and our home base was always Massachusetts, so I spent my middle school years in Acton, Massachusetts. My dad was attending law school, and when he graduated, he combined his engineering degree and his law degree and became a patent attorney, and was soon offered a position in Binghamton, New York, upstate New York. So at this point, I'm in the 10th grade. So my life was pretty good at that point. Till around the spring of my senior year of high school, and my dad was offered a position with Honeywell here in Phoenix. And quite honestly, I didn't even know where Arizona was. But of course that meant a huge change of plans for me. I was planning to attend a small Catholic girls' school in Pennsylvania, and now here I was going to this gigantic Arizona State University. Well, it was gigantic back then. It was 35,000 kids. But I didn't know anyone. So I was recommended to go through Sorority Rush, and I did, and I joined Kappa Delta. And it was great because now I had that community that could help me adjust to my new surroundings. And as I got my sea legs at ASU, I joined a number of other organizations, one of which is called Devil's Advocates. And if you're not familiar with Devil's Advocates, that's the organization at ASU that gives the campus tours to prospective students. And we also would go to the Arizona high schools and talk to students that were interested in attending ASU. So between those activities and a number of others, it was really those things that were pivotal in helping me determine what I wanted to do with my career. Because I was either recruiting the best for the university or for my sorority. And so again, it was these organizations that spawned the passion that led me to do what I do for a living. So as Janelle said, I graduated from ASU. I have a degree in communications. And unfortunately, a liberal arts degree didn't go that far in 1981. And so quite honestly, I bumbled around a lot for a job. I started out as a receptionist for a hand surgeon, but I was always reprimanded because I couldn't organize charts in chronological order. So then I got a job in personnel for a large hospital system here in the Valley, and I typed -6 words a minute. I'm a very good salesperson, but I didn't fit into that rigid corporate structure, and I was consistently reprimanded for not staying in my job lane. Shortly after joining the company, I met a woman who owned an executive search firm, and she hired me. And that's really where I mastered my skills before I started my company. So in the late 90s, the partners that I was working for decided that they were going to relocate the business to Northern California. And relocation wasn't an option for me at that time. So basically I was out of a job. And I started Duffy Group really to introduce companies to a different way to recruit. And it was really all about targeting candidates that were in their competitors and paying for that service by the hour rather than a percentage of a candidate's salary. At the time that I started the business, my husband and I were trying to start our family, and our son arrived. We adopted our first child. He came the next year. And so I was working from home already, and I really didn't want to miss out on anything once Daniel came. And of course, then 18 months later, my daughter was born. And so as my business started to grow, I would meet other women who were like me that were really passionate about recruiting, but they really wanted to have work-life balance. And that is really what the foundation of Duffy Group has always been. You know, while many of you have moved to home-based offices, this has been a normal for us for the last 30 years. And really the culture has been around work-life balance. But as my children started getting older and attending school, that's really where I got involved more into the community. And I started out with baby steps, quite honestly. I would be a preschool volunteer. I was a Girl Scout leader. I was a volunteer with the Cub Scouts, and then I got involved in National Charity League. And it was really National Charity League that was the platform that launched my further involvement. I expanded into a number of different nonprofit boards. Again, as Janelle said, I'm a big Sun Devil, and so I got involved with the ASU Alumni Association, serving on their board of directors, and had the opportunity to serve as their board chair, which spawned some opportunities to work with the board of trustees and the foundation. I worked in a number of different professional associations, including our local HR groups, as well as international search associations. And as Janelle said, right now I'm currently very active working with the 2020 Women on Boards initiative. And because of all of that, I was soon nominated for awards, and a few of them I won. So this is me. I'm a Greater Phoenix Chamber member and an Athena Award winner. I'm an education advocate. I'm a corporate leader. I'm a business owner. I'm a community champion. And this is my personal brand. This is my story. It's what distinguishes me in the world. It's how I see myself, and it's how others see me. So what about you? What's your personal brand? So in the time that we have together today, I want to show you how you can build a strong personal brand that will help you reach your goals. Once again, whether it's about landing that big job, getting that promotion that you deserve, or making your mark in the community. But first, a primer. What is a personal brand? So simply put, a personal brand is a compelling story about you. It summarizes your unique strengths and sets you apart from the competition. It really defines who you are and what makes you great. So a strong personal brand communicates your reputation and your value, and it conveys why you should be hired or promoted. I know it's a lot, so let's simplify it. A personal brand is your image. It's your mission. It's your passion. It's your values. It's your vision. It's not just a logo or a resume or even your LinkedIn or other social media profile. It's the story about how you solve problems, how you improve morale, how you bring service to the organization versus your credentials, your job title, or a college degree. Because it's all of these elements that help communicate your personal brand. But again, they're simply part of the bigger story. They're part of your story. So it's important because the best jobs can be tough to find, even in a strong labor market. And today's competition is really stiff. And a lot more people are looking for jobs as a result of the global pandemic. But developing a strong personal brand can help showcase who you are. It's about your skills, your expertise, and your passion. It provides a platform for you to establish credibility and to help you inspire and succeed. It also establishes you as a thought leader. A personal brand can also help you land job interviews and placements, climb the leadership ranks in your company, and it helps you forge partnerships with individuals, organizations, and the community. Perhaps you've heard this quote by Zig Ziglar, that if people like you, they will listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And again, this quote speaks to the importance of building a personal brand. Because when you do, the opportunities are bound to follow. So who are some of these recognizable brands? Well, you probably know who all of them are, and these individuals have certainly carved out a unique niche for themselves. So if we look at British magnate Sir Richard Branson, who describes himself as an adventurer, a philanthropist, and a troublemaker, but he believes in turning ideas into reality. And then there's 17-year-old environmental activist Greta Thunberg, and the home remodeling gurus and stars of Fixer Upper fame, Chip and Joanna Gaines. Each of these individuals has a strong, consistent, and memorable personal brand. But it doesn't mean you have to be famous to have a personal brand persona, right? A personal brand is all about showcasing your talents and expertise, whether you're in the public sphere or not. So a personal brand takes on many forms. Senator Kristen Sinema built her brand on what she promises to her constituents. She feels a duty to give back to the communities and the country that gave her so much. She believes she got her shot at the American dream, And now she wants all Arizonans to have the same chance, which I think is quite a noble promise for a political leader, don't you? Some of you may know Denis Resnick. She's a local business owner, a community leader, and a recipient of the Greater Phoenix Chamber Athena Award. She's best known for putting her passion for helping people, particularly children with autism, so that they live a healthy, independent life. She's the founder of Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, which is a place that's near and dear to her heart. And it's making a measurable difference for those with autism in Arizona and throughout the Southwest. And that's Denis's personal brand. Haha, she's the designer-clad, stiletto-wearing force of nature known as the Auctiontainer. While Letitia Fry, she was a fellow 2018 Athena finalist with me. And she's built her personal brand as the go-to gal for charity galas. And in doing so, has helped raise more than $200 million for causes in Arizona and across the country. So by now, you know that building a personal brand will have tremendous benefits. The key to create a brand that is differentiating and memorable. So, what's going to make you stand out from everyone else, especially now? So when you think about it, personal branding tells us a lot about who we are and why we land the next big job or secure that big promotion, or why somebody would want to partner with us. So how do you create a personal brand? So these are just a few key tenets that you should keep in mind. That's what your personal brand should be. It should be authentic, representing exactly who you are. It should be compelling, so people want to take notice. It needs to be consistent across all channels of communication, whether through a speech, in an interview, as part of your elevator speech, or on social media. It has to be transparent. There can't be any secrets. First, you need to be visible, because after all, what good is a personal brand if nobody can find you? So let's begin to create your personal brand. I hope you have something to jot some notes on next to you. But we want to start by answering these three questions. What is it that you do well? Think about that. Are you a strong writer? Are you good with numbers? Are you a strategic thinker? Or are you a leader with big ideas? What I want you to do is I really want you to think about what your core strengths are. I don't want you to make a laundry list of all the things that you do well. Instead, really give it some thought about where you truly excel. Next, I want you to think about your passion. What really drives you? Why do you do what you do? So are you a manager who gets satisfaction out of motivating a team to produce measurable bottom line results? Or are you a nonprofit leader who wants to make an indelible mark for an important cause? Really, what drives you? What's your passion? Lastly, what makes you unique? And I know that that's a really difficult question, but really think about it. What is it that makes you unique? What is it that separates you in the crowd? So let's take a deeper dive and get to work on your personal brand. So we're going to be looking at attitude, self-awareness, social awareness, and your online awareness. And I'm going to give you some time to answer some questions that I have so that you can start putting that foundation together for you. So let's talk about attitude first. And what I'd like you to do is to rate your current attitude and confidence level. And in doing so, what are a couple strengths that you have that relate to your attitude? And what are a couple of areas where you could grow or improve? So think about that for a minute. Has someone or something taken your voice away? This exercise, attitude, is really all about being mindful. It's about changing certain attitudes and behaviors that can get in your way. You know, our brains have the capacity to expand and to create new neural pathways so we can start thinking differently. In my Athena remarks, I shared that I started Duffy Group in a spare bedroom in my home. And at that time, I really wasn't afraid to start a business. And I shared that I was probably just too naive to be afraid at that time. But it was a few years later that I was afraid to lead the charge to grow my business. And the reason I was afraid is because I was afraid that I would fail. And I didn't think that I was smart enough, and I didn't think that I had the business savvy. So something had taken my voice away. Next, we want to talk about self-awareness. And again, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your perception of yourself? So this is your perception, what you think of yourself. And again, identify a couple of those strengths and a couple of areas where you see that you can grow and improve. So are you tuned into your strengths and your achievements and your areas for development? You may want to go back and look at some past performance reviews that you've had to remind yourself. You know, my natural style didn't fit my perception of what I thought a traditional, successful CEO looked like, because I'm often anxious, anticipating the future and preparing for it. I struggle with execution, and I feel uncomfortable with uncertainty or risk. Yeah, it's really big right now. But one day somebody that I respected helped me to step back and take a look at myself. And when I did, it really changed everything for me. What I realized is that I may not fit that old traditional CEO profile that was in my head, but I do understand the demands of my job, and I do lead in a kinder, gentler way. Next, think about social awareness. And again, how would you rate how others perceive you? Again, this is how others perceive you. What are a couple of those strengths and a couple of areas for improvement or growth? So, as I shared with you, it was when I stepped back and I asked somebody what for their thoughts, and they helped me to realize it was okay the way I was. And so I would encourage you to identify several people who are in your personal and professional network and share with them what you wrote and ask them for their honest feedback. As I said, it made a huge impact for me when I did that. Lastly, it's your online presence. And in this particular case, I'm really only talking about LinkedIn. But how would you rate your online presence, your LinkedIn presence? And again, identify a couple of strengths and a couple of areas for improvement. You know, a few things that I would recommend in terms of your LinkedIn profile is to make sure that you have a professional photo. And if you have one and it's 10 years old, 5 years old, you may want to update that, please. There's a couple of pieces of really important real estate on LinkedIn. The first one is the 120 characters that are under your name. And that's where you really need to make sure that you have the desired job titles that you're looking for and the skills that make you the guru in your field. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to put your contact information. We talked about that it's important to be visible out there, but now that you're visible, make it easy for people to find you and to reach you. The next important piece of real estate is the About section. And you have a 2,000 characters to describe yourself. Again, what makes you unique? What's your story that you're going to bring to another organization? It's about your accomplishments. It's including metrics. I would also encourage you to join groups in your industry and in your job function. Ask for recommendations and give recommendations. Just continue to build your network. Connect with me if you aren't already. And then leverage the tutorials that LinkedIn has. They have some really, really wonderful tutorials there. So now you've got some key learnings that you're armed with, and it's time to create your brand statement. So the brand statement is going to introduce you to the target audience, whether it's that current or prospective employer, a philanthropic organization, or even a corporate board of directors. It's where you're going to share your value proposition, your passions, and why they need to meet you. A brand statement should include 10 to 15 second soundbite, but you should also be prepared with a little longer one, maybe 30 seconds. So let me show you a little bit about how it works. About me. I'm Kathleen Duffy, President and CEO of Duffy Group. I'm a strategic thinker who uses a proven approach called recruitment research to help companies find top talent. Now, I might say that to a certain audience, but I might want to come up with another soundbite for a different audience. And that might say, hi, I'm Kathleen Duffy, entrepreneur and founder of Duffy Group. I'm on a mission to raise awareness of an alternative to executive search called recruitment research. Either way, what I'm shooting for is a follow-up question. Tell me more. So why I do what I do? My most fervent desire is to help people find joy in their work, an activity to which they dedicate 500,000 hours of their lives. I also channel that passion into making our community a better place to work. And why should we meet? Because I can unearth candidates whose skills match your open positions and who are a fit for your company's culture too. And it was all of this in mind that Duffy Group was born in 1991. So now it's time to tell your compelling story. And there's many ways in which you can do this. From interviews and speaking opportunities, social media, community involvement, and professional networking, you have so many opportunities to tell your story and to reinforce your personal brand at every communication touch point. So let's start with speaking opportunities. Start with the phone or in-person meetings. You don't have to start big. Then go to industry group presentations, professional association presentations, and business and community event speaking opportunities. There's a number of different offline tactics that you can deploy, looking at different newsletters, community newspapers. You know, I live in North Phoenix, and my community newspaper is the Moon Valley Tatler, and they're always looking for community stories that they can tell about about our neighbors. There's advertising. Earned media is huge. Then, of course, there's awards and recognition, and then our various business and community events. Online tactics. A website, all the different areas of social media. You considered writing a blog, sending out emails, conducting webinars, participating in chat sessions. You know, one thing that I would tell you to consider with respect to the website is consider purchasing your name as a domain. And I have to tell you, I wish that that was something that I had done much sooner. I think the other thing, you know, I talked about being consistent, and I need to be better at that, because some days I'm a little schizophrenic and people don't know whether I'm really Kathleen Duffy or Kathleen Duffy Ybarra. And just a sidebar story about that. When I got married, I started as Kathleen Ybarra, and I rely on people returning my calls as I'm recruiting them, and they couldn't spell anything with Ybarra. And so I wasn't getting calls back. So I discussed this with my husband, and I said, you know, professionally, I'm going to use Kathleen Duffy. And, you know, he was great. But personally, I go by Kathleen Duffy Ybarra. So I'm working on that consistency, but just know that there's always time to step back and grow and improve. And then, of course, there's your community. So what are the philanthropic activities that you can get involved in? There's so many volunteer opportunities and board positions. And board positions nonprofit board positions are just a really great way to get your foot in the door, especially if you are considering being on a corporate board of directors sometime in the future. Next, I want you to take time to do an audit of your network. And this is a really good exercise to go through. Start with people that are already in that you already have existing relationships with. So, you know, who are your personal relationships with, your family and your friends? Look at those professional relationships, people that you currently work with, have worked with in the past. Alumni groups are huge. You know, we Sun Devils, we know that ASU Alumni Association is consistently ranked #1 for networking opportunities. So take advantage of your local alumni organization. Organizations and associations. The Chamber is just one of the best out there. And you know, they now have a place for young professionals to really get their foot in the door and to start getting involved and to build their network. You know, when I was in college, as I said, I was involved in a number of different activities, and I really had no idea that what I was doing was building my network. And so when I had to start my business, I was always the behind the scenes person, and I didn't know that many people. I hadn't really worked that hard on my network in getting involved. And so I thought about somebody who I went to college with, and her name is Terry. And Terry was the president of her sorority the same time I was. She happened to be working at American Express, And I knew Terry would trust me to take my call, and she did. And I was able to tell her what I was doing, because in 1991, there weren't many options when it came to companies looking at recruiting firms. They would use traditional recruiting agencies, or they would post in the Sunday paper. And so I was coming up with another idea. And so she listened to me and she said, you know, I'm not in charge of recruiting anymore, but let me introduce you to Lorraine. And so she introduced me to Lorraine, who just really got it and embraced what we were doing, and was my very first client. And 29 years later, Lorraine is still a strong advocate and client of mine. But it was because of that, my beginnings of my network, that launched Duffy Group and grew from referrals and recommendations. So this is a really fabulous exercise that I would encourage all of you to do, and have it be a very living, fluid document, because it will grow. And please make sure to include me as a part of your network. So just a few final thoughts here. You know, COVID-19 has impacted everyone in the world. It's transformed the way that businesses are working now. It's transformed how we engage with others, and it's transformed how and where we work. And we're required to be agile and adaptable, right? I always joke with my team, say, you know, I used to be Gumby, but now I'm a Cirque du Soleil acrobat. But really, armed with your personal brand and story, what feels like a crisis today will become an exciting opportunity tomorrow. I promise you.
Well, Kathleen, thank you so much. That was such a great presentation. Several people asked, so I know that means that more are wondering. We will share this out afterwards. We recorded it, so attendees will have access to the presentation. We do have some questions for you, Kathleen. I guess kind of piggybacking off of your closing statement, obviously all of us are leading through the pandemic and some very unique situations here. For the most part, nobody is connected at the office anymore, or fewer people are. So what are some of the things that you've had to do at Duffy Group? And what are maybe some of the innovative ideas that you've implemented to help make sure your team stays connected and functioning as a strong team and a strong unit?
Sure. Yeah, it is pretty interesting. I think sometimes we take our remote workforce that we've done at Duffy Group really for granted, because it's just how it's always been. But you know, I think with the pandemic and stuff, it's been extra stressful for all of us. So we work with Slack channels, and we try to make some fun things in there. Like we have a pet. So because everyone has their, you know, four-legged coworkers now, and so we're always sharing pictures of our pets. The one thing that we have recently implemented is a virtual coffee break, and we're having so much fun with it now. So we meet weekly for an hour, and a different person hosts that. So we've had things, you know, conversations around what's the most unusual thing that you found while you were quarantine cleaning. And I think I won that one. I found a dead bird in my son's bedroom. Yeah. We had you know, helpful hints from our Martha Stewart wannabe from baking. And actually tomorrow we're going to be doing the Duffy Olympics, and we're all going to be Olympians. And that's going to be a fun time to, again, get to know each other and continue to bond.
That's fantastic. And a little terrifying that you found a dead bird.
Oh yeah.
I'll write that down. We do a weekly all-staff happy hour, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. That's a great question for that. We'll make sure we do that. One of our participants wanted to know how large Duffy Group is.
So we have, let's see, I think we're at 28 members here. Most of us live here in Arizona, and we have a couple of folks out of state.
Excellent. I am just going to try to run through the the questions as they came in. Hopefully we can get through most of them, but I love this one. What is one thing you would do if you knew you would not fail?
One thing that I would do if I knew I would not fail. Maybe surf?
I love it.
And I wouldn't hurt myself.
I like it. Maybe stand-up paddleboarding, you could start there and then work your way up to the waves.
There you go, there you go.
Oh, that's fantastic. You stated that you struggled with execution due to the uncertainty and fear of failure. How did you get yourself to overcome that?
I found somebody who was better at it than I am, and I surrounded myself with that person, hugging her every day, and she helps me, you know, to be able to execute. I think, again, you know, we can't be all things to everybody, and if you know where your blind spots are, then, you know, as leaders, we know to surround ourselves with people who do these things better than we to make us a full unit.
Absolutely. What was the catalyst that pushed you to finally start your business? You mentioned an initial fear of failure, but was there any particular sequence of events in your life that helped you overcome that and get the business off the ground?
So, you know, people always ask about, you know, how did you start Duffy Group? I mean, like, I didn't have a choice. I was out of work. I was the primary breadwinner. We were, like I said, we were looking to start a family. And so I just did it. I just went out there and I just started. I didn't have, although I have to laugh, my husband is an artist. And so I had lavender stationery because that's what you used at the time. But it was just a matter of getting out there. And like I said, I think I was just too naive to really think failure was an option. Then I think as I started to get to, you know, to realize what I was doing, then I started questioning myself. But it was when somebody helped me, again, to step back and see that it's okay to be nice. It's okay to be a kind leader. And that helped me because I was surrounded by a lot of very aggressive people. And I thought that's how I had to be, and that's just not how I'm wired.
Great. That's an excellent point. How do you recommend beginning to establish yourself as an expert if you're relatively new in your career?
So you just start baby steps. I would identify those people that are in your field and start talking with them. You know, women are phenomenal at supporting women, especially here in the Valley. And so I would look at that network. And if you don't know somebody that's in that network, then, you know, use the resources that the Chamber has. The Phoenix Business Journal has the Book of Lists. Start there. And if you let them know that you're starting out, I meet with people all the time. And you know, we talk through these different things and help them expand their network.
Great. Yes, and if you are a younger professional, the Greater Phoenix Chamber has a Valley Young Professionals Network. We would welcome you to join. We do connect with Kathleen and several other local leaders often, so that's a great way to build a network, not only of your peers, but also to begin meeting some of the executives and leaders in our community. So a little plug there, but I know Kathleen sent her daughter to join as well, and she's been an active participant. So please join us if you are a young professional looking for that. A little bit of a more tactical question regarding LinkedIn. Can you clarify the difference in the content between the 120 characters and then the About Me section so that it's not duplicative? Do you have any recommendations there?
Well, there are going to be some duplications in that, but really what you're looking at are keywords. So LinkedIn is a search engine. And anybody that is looking for a candidate, whether they are a recruiting firm or, you know, a hiring leader, in-house recruiters, they're doing keyword searches. And so you want to make sure that, you know, the job title that you're looking for is in that, is in the 120 characters, right? Have it in the About section too. But, you know, it's really all about keywords. So, you know, if I'm looking for a a closer, a salesperson that's a closer, put the word closer in there. If I'm looking for a development professional, put fundraiser, put major gifts. Those are the types of words you want to see.
Great, thank you. I think that's very helpful. Beyond working on developing your personal brand, what advice do you have for other women who are experiencing that same fear when it comes to taking steps and starting a business?
Just do it, you guys. You know, I mean, you really can't fail. Take it from me. It's, you know, you may have a few bumps in the road along the way, but isn't that how we all learn and get smarter? And again, just surround yourself with other women. I mean, you can have men too, but you know, and they're going to help you and talk, you know, and you can talk through things with them. But just do it. That Nike thing is right.
Absolutely. What recommendations do you have for managing network contacts and interactions? Any way to keep that organized, or any tricks that you've learned?
I'm kind of bad at it, to be honest with you. But you know, LinkedIn is really, really great. You know, I grew up with the old-fashioned Rolodex types of things. I also, you know, you leverage the business journal quite a bit to, you know, like if I see an article about somebody and I'll think, oh, I forgot about them, I really need to reach out. So mine's a little expansive right now, and so I probably should do a better job. But I would start. I think your LinkedIn, you can set up groups, and like I said, LinkedIn has some really amazing tutorials that you can do, and they'll be able to help you as well.
Great. Another one of our attendees, first of all, thanks you, and wonders how you keep your team motivated.
Well, they should probably answer the question. You know, what I try to do is, you know, I manage to each to the individual. So we have an overarching strategic plan, and we have KPIs and all of that stuff, but everybody has a different personality, and they're all motivated differently. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that I work hard to get to know what their hot buttons are and what gets the, you know, their engine flowing, so that I can work with them and motivate them in that way. Now, it's a small business, so I have the luxury to be able to do that, but I have found that works well for me.
Great, thank you. Another really great question that I think probably several of us struggle with: how do I work on my assertiveness and my decisiveness, and how do you grow in those areas?
You know, sometimes it's just practicing. And, you know, before I used to feel like I couldn't, it had to be like I didn't feel like I fit that traditional box that I was supposed to sit in. And then I did tip my toe, I did take some risk, and I would say, hey, have you thought about this? And you know, kind of being a little nervous that, well, they're going to say, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of, Kathleen. And I actually heard more of, that's an interesting perspective. And so it was really just giving it a try, and being okay if somebody said that's a stupid idea. But in the end, it helped me to grow.
Absolutely. What tips do you have for someone job searching during the pandemic?
LinkedIn. You know, the big thing is, and again, it gets back to your brand. You have to be able to tell your story. So I get a lot of calls, I get a lot of emails from people saying, you know, can you help me find a job? Recruiters really can't help you find a job. You know, the best way to find a job is through referrals and recommendations. And so if you can't, well, what happens is people will say to me, you know, I'm spending a lot of time having coffee with people, which you can't do anymore, you know, talking with them about what I want to do and seeing if they'll introduce me to somebody. Well, I get lots of those calls, and I'm happy to introduce you to somebody, but if you can't tell me what it is succinctly that you want to be able to do, I'm not going to introduce you into my network because I can't waste their time. So really take a step back, be able to articulate what it is that you want to do and why you're better than anybody else. And then that will launch it.
Great. And we did a webinar on that similar topic for our young professionals recently and had some other great executives in there. So to the person who asked that question or anyone struggling with that, that's on our Chambers Valley Young Professionals page where you can hear an expanded on conversation with that as well. Or I'm sure if you connect with Kathleen on LinkedIn, she would answer any further questions as well. We are fast running out of time. So somebody sent in a really great quote, and Kathleen, I don't know if this is someone from your office or another attendee, but it also ties with a separate question we got, and this person wrote, there's a quote that resonates with me. You regret the things you don't do more than those that you do. So she said, so go forth, start your business. You'll regret doing that less than wondering what if. So I guess to maybe end our conversation, another attendee, excuse me, asked, what is your favorite quote or words to live by?
So it's bloom where you're planted. So I told you that when my father decided that he was going to move to Arizona, I really didn't want to be here. And so my parents allowed me to go back to Binghamton to see my friends because I missed them so much. And I was involved in a church youth group back there, and I was able to go on a retreat, and I was very sad. And the priest said to me, they called me Kathy at the time, Kathy, don't you know that you have to bloom where you're planted? And I've just anchored on that. And that's when I came back, and I just had a whole different headset, and I think I bloomed.
That's amazing. I think you certainly did. You've accomplished so much. You're such a fabulous leader in our community. She's truly been a great friend to the Chamber. I know she's a great friend to ASU and basically anyone that she comes across. So please join me in a virtual round of applause for Kathleen. I want to make sure we get you all off of this webinar in time. So if we did miss your question, please send it over to Kathleen or to the Chamber, and we'll help make sure you get connected with her. The webinar will be available online and slides will be available. And then I would just end one more plug. Obviously, Kathleen is one of our past Athena recipients. We are in Athena nomination time. So if you know somebody, a young professional, somebody in the public sector or the private sector, those are our three categories who are doing great things. Tell us about them. You can nominate them on the Chamber's website. Fairly quick process to nominate, and then you'll help them fill out their application, and we will be honoring them throughout the remainder of this year leading up to our event in November. But would love to hear about the incredible women in your network. So Kathleen, once again, thank you so much. To all of our participants, thank you for being here, for spending some time with us today, and we will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.